doing that. Okay, so hopefully you all watched last week's video. I'm not going to really address anything from last week's reading or the reading for last week, unless you guys have something you want to talk about. I think we have plenty to talk about today. I brought an art of the week. I'm not, because of time constraints, I'm just not going to walk around, but I'll lay it here. Whenever some guy in the Divine Comedy starts talking about Italian politics, you know how a lot of them just go off on some Italian guys that know. So Siena, like, oh, those blessed people from Siena. Duccio was alive at the same time as Dante. Duccio was painting when Dante was living in Florence. And this is just a really interesting nativity, early Renaissance. But can you guys, I don't know if you guys in the back can see, is there a background to the, like, where are these people? Is there sky? Is there landscape?
I can't tell if that's a mountain or a roof.
Yeah, and we know that in the Holy Land, people often used caves because it's already built, you know what I mean? It's easy to just make it your stable. It's got no sky. Do you know, it's still very removed from any sort of actual concrete reality. So in that way, it's kind of more like those Byzantine paintings. But it's going in the direction of portraying people more realistically and not symbolically. I will put this over here if you want to check out Duccio on your way out. So I collected your very long imitations. Yes. For next week, you have, it's 2 paragraphs, but the second paragraph is really, really short. It's about a lady being followed by a peacock. So I like Ellis. What? That's very random. This is from a short story by the Southern writer Flannery O'Connor. If you have never read Flannery O'Connor and you wish to, buckle up. She's pretty wild. And her point in her writing was to jolt modern people back into an understanding of transcendent realities and non-material realities. But she often does this by shock. There's a large shock value. Some of her stories have some moments of violence, and they're just weird. So this is from a Flannery O'Connor short story called The Displaced Person. Do the imitation, follow it as well as you can. I'm going to compare it to the War of the Worlds one. Okay, so it is definitely, it's definitely shorter, not shorter by a lot. But I hope that you guys are getting better, that it's getting easier to really see the structure. And I hope that's what's happening for you, that you're able, with increasing speed, to look at a sentence and sort it out. Okay, this is what this sentence is. It's got 2 verbs. It's got, it's got this clause here. It's got 2 adverbs. It's got a prepositional phrase, followed by this. And that you can sort of strip it down and see the skeleton of the sentence and then build a new sentence around the skeleton. Because writing is both of those things, right? Looking at the structure of it, but also coming up with really good words to hang on the skeleton, right? On the structure. So that's what we're doing. We're kind of having you strip it away. Okay, what is this sentence that I'm dealing with? And then you dress it up again with your own words. Yeah, Kyle.
So I just struggled with a couple times about subject, the subject of the paper, write down, I could get to it, and then it just sort of kept rambling on and just trying to find words that follow along with my idea.
Yeah.
I was doing some sort of anger and like the world of the worlds, and it was just keep going on. Like, how do I describe anger in more ways? Like, it's anger, it's like vast, unending. Like, I just have to keep struggling to like find the words that match it and to fit the structure. So I went back like twice and rechanged the whole theme of it just to get a better theme.
And in that case, it turns out to be one of those copia exercises, right? Where I gave you a sentence and I made you rewrite it a bajillion ways, which is also good practice. How many ways, from how many angles can I describe this? So anyway, I hopefully this is going to be beneficial for your writing going forward, but it's just kind of something completely different. Um, Before I just dive into my stuff, I want to throw it out to you guys for the questions for this week. Was there a question? You don't know what I'm talking about. It's driving you crazy. You can't eat. You can't sleep. You just need to know. I don't want to leave you hanging. If not, and I hope you are at least attempting to go through the questions. I wrote them. I worked to make all these up for you specifically as a guide, to help you. I'm throwing out, these seem to be things that are important for you to catch. And I tell you what lines to look on and what cantos to look on for most of them, so it ought to be. Oh yeah, that's why I was hoping we all had the same book. But it's okay.
That's my dad's copy from when he was.
You know what? We can work with that. Here's what I want to do. I wanted you guys read the reading for this week, and the literal story is pretty obvious. Okay, these guys are wrathful, and they're, in the smoke, because of the fires of their anger. These guys were envious, and their eyes are sewn shut because in life, they couldn't look at anything without wanting it. And now they're not allowed to look at anything. All right. So I feel like, okay, we got the general idea. So I want to target the very center. Did you guys notice, or did you think about the fact that this poem, the whole thing, has 3 parts, right? And you just read the middle part of the middle poem. You just read the very center. This week you read the center. And I want to point out, but let's start with that. Dante did not do anything by accident or coincidence. He set out like an architect building a building meticulously. Everything is where it is for a reason, including what he decides to put in the dead center. We're going to talk, when we get into the paradise, we're going to talk a little bit more about numbers in Dante, like the way he uses numbers and how the repetitions of numbers. But I want to throw one out today. I got this book from a great book called Ascent to Love. It's a study of the Divine Comedy. I did not figure this out on my own by any stretch of the imagination. This author points out that Canto 17 is numerically the very center of the poem. There are 16 cantos of Purgatory before and 16 after. 17 is the center. So if one would expect the center to be the centerpiece, as it were, we might expect something really special from Canto 17, something really important. And to point it out, have you guys noticed, maybe you haven't, not every canto has the same number of lines. They vary slightly in length. Some of them are like 120, some of them are 150. It's not necessarily what they were in Italian, because sometimes in the notes he says, I had to add a line here to really communicate what he said really briefly in Italian. But so I'm going to write some numbers on the board. These are numbers in Italian, how many lines there are in Italian for the original. So I'm just going to write a series of numbers and then I'll tell you what they mean. 136, 154, 151, 145, 145, 139, 145. I'm going to run out of room again. Now they're going to get smaller and smaller. 136, 154. Okay. These are the number of lines in the center cantos of the Divine Comedy. Look at this. 145, 145, 145, 145, 151, 151. And then we have little bookends. And this is Canto 17. Seriously, he wrote the number of lines to mirror that everything that he wants to say centers on Canto 17. So cool. Yeah, what were you going to say something?
So I actually noticed too when you talk about the sun. When you think of the sun, you think of the sun as the center of the universe. God gave us the sun. It's considered the center of the universe.
Yes.
Canto.
Yes. So I want to spend a lot of time on Canto 17 today because apparently Dante thinks it's really, really important. He's like neon signs he's got for us. Look at this. Look at this. This is important. And then with the time we have left, we're going to visit the cantos on either side because those are also going with the same theme. But first, I want to read something to you because what he has to say in that Canto 17 revolves around a medieval idea. And this is a book by C.S. Lewis. It's called The Discarded Image. And it's about the medieval worldview. It's the sources, like the ancient literary sources that made the medieval worldview. And then how did they view the world? That's what this book's about. And I wonder, because C.S. Lewis says things way better than I ever will, I'm just going to read what he said instead of trying to put it in my own words. The fundamental concept of modern science is, or was till very recently, that of natural laws. And every event was described as happening in obedience to them, right? I drop the pen, and why does it fall? It obeys the law of gravity. That's what we say, right? There's a law in the universe that pulls everything towards the center of something with great mass, like the Earth. And so this, and it's going to obey every time. It obeys every time. Okay. So C.S. Lewis says that's how we see things. In medieval science, the fundamental its home, the region that suits it, and if not forcibly restrained, it moves there by a sort of homing instinct. And then he gives a passage from Chaucer, a book by Chaucer. It's in Middle English, so I'm going to kind of have to, I'm going to try to read it in Middle English. I'm going to update it. Every kindly thing that is hath a kindly steed place. There he may best in it conserved be, unto which place everything through his kindly inclining moveth for to come to. Everything has a place it wants to be. Thus, while every falling body for us illustrates the law of gravitation, for them it illustrated the kindly inclining of terrestrial bodies to their kindly steed, the earth. Everything moves to the place it wants to be. The question at once arises whether medieval thinkers really believed that what we now call inanimate objects were sentient and purposive. The answer in general is undoubtedly no. I say in general because they attributed life and even intelligence to one privileged class of objects, the stars, which we hold to be inorganic. If you have ever read the Chronicles of Narnia, if you have ever read The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, you will know at the very end, they reach an island, Ramandu's Island. Ramandu is a star. He is a retired star. He's a sentient, intelligent being. He is also a star. Why would C.S. Lewis? Because C.S. Lewis loved the Middle Ages. The stars were intelligences, as far as they go. But full-blown panpsychism, the doctrine of universal sentience, was not, to the best of my knowledge, held by anyone before Campanella and never made many converts. If we could ask the medieval scientist, why then do you talk as if they did? Why would you say that it wants to go to its place? He might, for he was always a dialectician, retort with the counter question, but do you intend your language about laws and obedience any more literally than I intend mine about kindly inclining? Do you really believe that a falling stone is aware of a directive issued to it by some legislator and feels either a moral or prudential obligation to conform? Do you think it's really obeying? Oh, I've been let loose. I must obey the law. I must fall. Of course not. We should then have to admit that both ways of expressing the facts are metaphorical. The odd thing is that ours is the more anthropomorphic of the two. To talk as if inanimate bodies had a homing instinct is to bring them no nearer to us than pigeons. To talk as if they could obey laws is to treat them like men and even like citizens. All right. So he goes on to say, though neither statement can be taken literally, it does not follow that it makes no difference which is used. On the imaginative and emotional level, it makes a great difference whether, with medievals, we project upon the universe our strivings and desires, or with the moderns, our police system and our traffic regulations. All right. I'll stop there. He goes on. In Dante's world, not just